It's pretty hard to improv these things sometimes. I mean, you'd think I'd go on with a basic idea of what I was gonna do, like a conceptual. Well, Jackson, I was trying to say like a conceptual idea that would tether my improv to, but
They're
it's
following us.
well, yeah. I mean, the
gets
thoughts
me.
can follow other thoughts, and then there's a connection, and then whenever you bridge two different styles of
That's-
trains of thought,
that's
you
casting
get
out demons.
casting out demons. Hey, demon heads!
Hey guys,
It's Bailey,
and Zach.
and we're here to bring you another episode of the gripping podcast made from our blood, sweat, and fears, simply known as
Casting Out Demons.
Casting Out Demons.
So this week, we're going to talk about the movie Idle Hands,
Idle Hands.
which is a great little movie for those of you that haven't seen it. It's like a quintessential 1999
Yeah.
teen movie with a very dark twist.
It's something that you watched if you were in our age bracket when
Oh,
you were
for
like
sure.
10 years old on HBO, and you ran and told all your friends about it because they didn't stay up as late as you did, and you were the cool kid. And then, Martha Kaufman talks to you one time at school, and the next thing you know, you're one of the cool kids because of the movie. And then you get asked to the dance, and then I don't know, maybe you fart at the dance while you're dancing because you had beans for dinner. And then the next thing you know, you're not one of the cool kids anymore.
All right.
Quintessential 90s movie is what I'm saying.
Yeah, everybody's had that moment. God. So, you know what? Kids these days usually tweet about moments like that.
Oh, they sure do.
And so
Their
that
thumbs are always busy on their touchscreen phones.
So that leads me to our trick or tweet segment.
Yes.
Zach, would you like to go first?
Yes. I can count on one hand how many times this anti-after school special scared me. And that's not a bad thing. Hashtag RIP Devin Sawa. His career.
Oh, I was like, what?
No, he's fine.
It's like, oh my
He's
gosh.
actually doing lovely. I hear.
God.
He has like a candle making business in Ontario.
Oh my God. Okay, and mine is also known as Wes Craven Presents Home Alone.
Okay.
Rest in peace, Wes Craven.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start out with the summarization.
This is your typical late 90s attempt at satirizing the genre with funny, over-the-top jump scares from the very first scene where the parents are killed by, let's face it was Devin Sawa when he was possessed by the hand while he was sleeping. That's why he doesn't remember it. And that coincides with the over-the-top stupidity of the characters that mixes together in a cheesy soup of campy fun.
God.
Campy, cheesy soup.
God. Idle Hands starts out, it's kind of a spoof off of, it actually starts out with kind of some shock factor. It's like a subliminal message type thing. We're seeing flashes of like the devil and blood and just kind of satanic stuff, and that's how the movie starts out.
Yeah.
Like it's a quintessential 90s movie, so we have no lead in, it's just straight credits. And then we get a fade into just like your typical kind of suburban neighborhood. And
A lot of white people in this movie. If you're a fan of white people, you'll love Idle Hands.
And so, it kind of takes a spoof off of, like the typical parents in suburbia.
Let's
And
go to
so,
bed, roll over, kiss each other, then roll over and never talk to each other.
And so
Because we hate our marriage.
oh my God. And so they're talking about their son, and, she calls him Scooter, and he's like, he wouldn't scoot his butt off the sofa if his life depended on it. They refer to their son, Anton. And so, they wind up going to bed. When they turn out the light, there's a message on the ceiling that says, I'm under the bed. And so, the mom screams, because we have no names for the parents. It's just mom and dad. And if you look online, it's just mom Tobias, dad Tobias. And
Tobias
she
is a weird
screams.
last name, by the way.
I always think of Animorphs, because Tobias was the
I always think
was
of
the bird.
Arrested Development.
That's Tobias. That's my second, but at first
Yeah.
it's Animorphs.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Priorities. And so she's like, go see what that is. And he's like, it's probably, the cat, blah, blah, blah. So he winds up going downstairs, and you hear just a bunch of noises.
Yeah, and then the cat jumps on the bed. The mother's like, "Oh, the cat! Oh,
Exactly.
Come here, let me pet you, rub your belly, because you're a cat. That's really all you can do with a cat." God. I taught mine how to play fetch, by the way.
Oh my Lanta.
Yeah, I'm serious. Cooper knows how to fetch. He's a good boy. You listening, Coop? Good boy. You're a good boy, right? All right. So you hear noises coming from downstairs. The mother looks kind of puzzled, if not just overly stupid. Then she heads downstairs. She notices there's some candles burning. Well, first she goes to Anton's room, which is in the attic, I think, right?
No, she goes...
Isn't his room in the attic?
Yes.
Yeah.
But first she goes downstairs because she hears the noises, and then she sees the candle, and she gets mad at his dad for not blowing out the candles.
Oh, yeah, and then she blows out the candles that are inside the jack-o'-lantern.
Yes.
I think...
And then she slips in some blood.
Yes.
And so she freaks out, and she runs upstairs and goes to, like, pull down
the attic.
Anton's door.
Yeah.
But it's jammed, and so she runs into their bedroom to call 911.
Mm-hmm.
When the phone is jerked out from under her, under the bed, she goes to grab it, and then something grabs her ankle. We just see a hand and grabs her ankle and takes her into the bed. There's a splat noise, and just blood pops out.
You know, I actually did some research, Bailey. Remember how over the past couple of weeks, we've been having some issues with a disembodied hand in the studio. And I actually found out it was actually just Devin Sawa playing a prank on us. So good one, Devin. You really got us. I'm glad you're a fan of the show. Hopefully this wasn't your final destination. But I hope to see you again soon, buddy. It was great. Let's catch up again.
I wish y'all could see my face.
I wish you could see our faces too, but we're not legally allowed to come through in that medium just yet. We have to make a deal with a couple of studios, Troublemaker Studios, and that's the studio that did the Grindhouse movies.
Well, Robert Rodriguez won't let Zach just appear nude in every scene.
Well, yeah, so. It's contractual stuff. We don't want to bore you, but if I'm going to do a podcast, I'm going to do it in the nude. Bailey was cool with it.
Rodriguez, I said that it was fine.
Yeah, as long
comfortable.
Yeah, as long as there's a black censor bar over it while we're in person, she's fine with it.
Because at first Zach said I want to wear my fake glasses. We're like, okay, and then he followed it up with nothing else. And then
it's because
like no.
I'd come in with my fake glasses on the first podcast we did. It follows, and I came in and I was buck naked, and Bailey admittedly and understandably was a little taken aback. She was like, where are your clothes at? And I said, I told you I wanted to wear these glasses. And then she's like, well, I didn't think that's all you wanted to wear. And I was like, well, read the fine print. So me and Bailey went to court. There were a couple of mediations, but eventually we got to the agreement where I can, walk around free and feel free to go on long tyrants like this.
Zach views his clothes as demons, and since the podcast is entitled Casting Out Demons, he thought it was just a free-for-all.
It's a character study is what it is, and I'm a method actor. So that's whenever Bailey first told me about the idea for the podcast, I was like, yes, I think this character is perfect for me. I think this is going to be the perfect role, the one that really takes me over the top. So naturally, I went all natural. And, I came with the character that I think the audience really enjoys. A free swinging guy.
God. So...
Did you notice at the beginning of the movie, whenever Anton wakes up, he switches his Walkman over, which is kind of, it's a timepiece. It's a 90s piece, if you will. And he puts his headphones on, he goes downstairs, and he's flipping through the channels with his left hand. And that's important. And it starts off on a newscast, and they're talking about the murders. No, I don't know if the director intentionally had that scene in there where the murders were on TV, and it's kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen. But I thought, even if it wasn't intentional, it was a nice touch.
Oh, yeah, because he's actually one of the voices of the newscaster, the director is.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
well, then maybe he did plan it.
Yeah, I think that it was intentional. I think that what I took it as is because Anton is essentially your basic 16-year-old in 1999, stoner kid, oversized jeans, oversized hoodie, hanging out, doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just kind of playing to the fact that he is so oblivious that he's not even that it doesn't register until later in the movie when Seth Green and
the guy from the Butterfly Effect.
Exactly.
And the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, knock over that bag of onion rings and there are ears in them. That's when it finally processes with him, and that's like 20 minutes into the movie, 30 minutes into the movie. So I think it's to kind of play like he's that oblivious.
Oh yeah, he doesn't realize that he has potential, and his friends see that in him. And there's a little stoner speech they give him about, all you do is smoke weed and watch TV. You know, there's more to life than this.
Yeah,
where's your ambition?
My favorite is they're like, I mean, that's all that there is.
Yeah, that's all that there is in life. But
so yeah.
So whenever I watched the movie when I was younger, when I was 10, I didn't know what they were smoking. Like, I didn't understand the concept of what, and I actually did some research, and it turns out the substance Anton and his friends are smoking turns out to be an illegal plant called marijuana, also known as cannabis, which was popularized by hippies, hip-hop music, and those who have hip replacements. Apparently, the user inhales a psychoactive component of the plant called THC, which reacts with the cannabinoids in the brain, which in turn makes life. It makes life. That's where my cousin's text message ended.
Well, not to be blunt, but I feel like...
yeah.
I feel like we're starting to get off track here.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get out in the weeds here.
I mean, I smoked a lot of pot before we just did this podcast, and so
we could call
podcast.
I was about to say that.
But
wow,
I smoked a lot of marijuana, but that's my favorite way to say it.
Marijuana.
Before this, and so I need to stay on track.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a bad idea to inform the audience exactly what the substance they were smoking is.
But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was meant to be left up to mystery. Maybe there's something greater than all of us out there.
I don't want to take away from the ambiguity that the director is intentionally including in the movie, and maybe he doesn't want the audience to know that it's pot. But I mean, you can argue that it's one of the most important parts of the movie. By the way, the movie ends. And the puppeteer, if I may, and
I mean, not to throw stones at your cast, at your your terminology here or your ideology.
Well, your puns are making me fly high, Bailey. I swear.
Right.
Yes.
So
disco.
Let's
carry on. So I think he goes to meet his friends.
Yes.
They're smoking some weed because he wants to get
marijuana.
He's dry. He's high and dry. There's a little bit of Sublime playing in the background in this movie.
Santeria plays every time that something with his friends happens, and it's so funny.
Oh yeah, it's a little over the top, a little I don't know, a little heavy-handed on the marijuana culture.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think it plays with the fact too that his friends are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Oh yeah, and if you guys don't understand that reference, Bailey is making a reference to Shakespearean characters.
Which are they're the grave robbers from Hamlet.
Hamlet.
Hamlet. I was trying to think. I was like, is it Hamlet or Macbeth?
No, it's Hamlet. Because idle hands.
Oh, that hurts me.
The movie we're covering is called Idle Hands, and see what I did there? I replaced the word ham with hand.
Anyway, so in Hamlet.
Was it Hamlet or was it Macbeth?
I think it's Hamlet.
Because Hamlet is about the Hamlet's about the teenager, the angsty teenager, and
who sees the ghost of his dad. Yeah, I just always think of in Jennifer's Body when she's like, "Is he gonna fuck his mom?" And that's what I always think of when somebody says Hamlet. It just makes me laugh.
Now, then what is the other one about Macbeth?
Macbeth is the one where you have the three witches.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Macbeth's better play. I actually took a class on Shakespeare. I should know a little bit more about it, but.
Hamlet's just my personal favorite, but then the Ken Branagh movie is a lot better than most adaptations of Macbeth. So. Anyway, I digress. So he goes to his friends, and they're like, Anton, all you do is smoke weed all day, and they do the stoner speech that Zach was referring to.
Yes, referring to. There's so many of them, that's the thing.
So, he...
I think they're all gone, Joe.
So, they wind up, oh my God, so...
Sorry. Continue.
So, they give him the stoner speech they're talking about, and, he winds up seeing the girl that he likes, who's just your average plain Mary Jane.
The girl next door trope. And I think they do a good job of exploring this.
Yeah, this is actually Jessica Alba's first movie.
Yes, and you know what? Decent job. Decent acting job.
Yeah.
She's one of the funniest people in this movie, and she's barely in it.
She's like the cool rocker chick. She's like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. She's like Idle Hands' Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Early take on the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. And the first time we see her, she's riding her bike through the neighborhood, which is, suburbia.
Which is actually the same neighborhood that Halloween was shot in. Like,
is
John
that true?
Carpenter's Halloween. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Congratulations on getting that neighborhood. It's a tough neighborhood to get into.
Yeah, I know. Haddonfield, whatever it's called. I think it's called... It's not Beaver, Ohio. That's when... Anyway, that's the point. So
she's riding by. Devon Sawa, or Anton. I guess I should call him Anton.
Yeah.
Notices that she drops her songbook. And he knows immediately it's her songbook because they refer to whenever Anton sits behind her in class and reads all of her songs. And later on we find out that Anton has some of these songs memorized. Which, I don't know. Kind of weird. Mm-hmm. It's explanatory for what he does in the end of the movie.
So, yeah, so, like, he sees it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is your chance. But he's in his boxers and, like, slippers because he just came, like, right from across the street. Like, he didn't put any pants on.
Yeah.
And we're also introduced to a character named Randy. At this point, he's like, nice pants, Anton. And every time Randy comes on, his, like, little sound clip is shout at the devil.
Yeah.
And
because he's supposed to be the one that
truck.
listens to metal music, and he's the kind of the edgy dude in town. And
he wears a Quiet Riot shirt in every scene of this movie.
Yes, he does.
And so, he's like, nice pants, or nice slippers. And so,
I think he says nice outfit, but...
Nice outfit, something.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Makes a snarky stab at his outfit. And so, he winds up going next door, sees it, and they're like, this is your chance. And so he borrows some pants from his friend, and he just, like, gives her the book, doesn't say a word, and then runs back home.
She's like, hey, hello? Hey. And then he's continuing to walk away, and then he's gone. And we'll put a little pin in this here, but this is the beginning of some of the characteristics that I use to argue, that's right, my Satan pizza theory, which we'll come back to later in the movie.
Yeah, so he goes home.
Yes.
And they're like, he's dry. So they mention that if you smoke nutmeg and oregano,
yes,
you can get a nice little high. So he's like watching MTV.
Ding, ding, ding. This is also a Satan pizza theory warning. This is where the territory of my theory is based upon.
I can already see exactly where this is going.
Really? Wow, okay. Kudos to you. I think it's pretty complex, Bailey. I don't know if you can assume that, but
I think I'll predict later.
We'll get to the point whenever we get to covering it, and I'll ask you, what do you think it is? Yeah. And then we'll see if you're right. And if you're right, I'll tell you. I have it written right here, so I'll show you.
Yeah. So he winds up, of course, it like doesn't do anything. He takes a huge hit, winds up choking, goes to the sink, and then puts soap and water in his mouth, which was actually improvised. They didn't know Devon Sawa, like the soap was there as a prop, and he's the one that did that whole thing. Like that's all improvised. So he runs over, because he has an asthma inhaler that he wears around his neck that is actually a pipe. It's actually really funny.
He uses it to carry his cannabis in.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So he, of course, he's like, it's really gross. Mm-hmm. And so after he recovers from that, he starts making a sandwich.
A sandwich with mayonnaise, bologna. I think there might have been something else on there, but the mayonnaise is the most important part.
So he's very oblivious. He's watching this music video, and there's butts. There are female booties on the TV, and so he's, like, distracted by that, and he's, like, jamming out, getting high on oregano and nutmeg, like what that one kid at your school would, like, try to sell as weed.
Clayton Michelle. That was him. He smoked soap once.
Would he do that, or, like, parsley?
He literally, he ground up soap and smoked it because someone told him that would get him high. And he pretended to be high. For days, he pretended to be high.
God, that's so stupid. And so he's making a sandwich. God. He's, like, making a sandwich, and so the knife that he pulls out has blood all over it, but he doesn't see that. So he starts slathering mayo on his sandwich, and as you know, mayo, while disgusting, and it's egg jello.
Yes, that's exactly. I looked it up. I did some research on what mayo was, and it turns out it's just Jello made from egg whites.
Yeah, it's essentially egg Jello. It's so gross, and so he's like, spraying it on his sandwich, and it's red, but he's not paying attention, and so he puts, puts a sandwich together,
slathers it together,
looks at the knife after he's taken a bite and realizes there's blood all over the knife and starts screaming.
Yeah.
Screaming. And so, he's kind of frantic and he grabs his dog, which is the same dog from Road Trip, by the way. If you've ever seen Road Trip, it's probably Schindler's talking dog.
That's awesome.
It's the same dog. And so, he sends the dog out into he grabs the dog and is holding the dog, and then he sends the dog out in the hallway.
Yes.
And the dog doesn't see anything. And the dog also, this has been a running joke with the crew, the dog clearly has an erection. It is very obvious.
I did not notice that.
And so, the first time I watched this a while back, I was on IMDb because I don't think I'd researched for the show. I researched for everything I watch.
Yeah.
And it said that, and so ever since then, that's all I can see.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And, he puts the dog in the hallway. The dog doesn't see anything. So then they run to his parents' bed, and he, he's like, come here! And they, get under the blanket on the bed, and then there's no noise. There's, nothing going on.
Yeah.
And so he kind of gets up to finish investigating, and it turns out he finds the corpses of his parents. And they are in... I like the juxtaposition because his parents, they make a comment a few minutes later. One of his friends, he's like, are you sure these aren't Halloween decorations because your parents go out every year? But they have they're almost scarecrows with pumpkin, actual jack-o'-lantern heads, but they're American Gothic. And so I love the juxtaposition of the American Gothic clashing with this, how this movie's really gory and abstract.
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
And so, he takes the head off of one of them and realizes that he knocks him over, and the heads fall off, and he realizes it's his parents, and they're severely mutilated. And so, he freaks out, calls his friends over.
And he's watching a video during this time, and his friends...
It's a Rob Zombie video, right?
I think that's later whenever we're dealing with Randy's character.
Oh, yeah, because they come in and it's the booty video.
Yeah, they're watching the booty video, and... He's like, look at this, and this is another example of juxtaposition where it works in terms of... She explained how it works in terms of practical and just kind of the clashing of two different styles, and that's very, very, very awesome. And then this is a comedic juxtaposition whenever they come in to kind of show just that he's not the only oblivious character in this movie. His friends are also very oblivious. Mm-hmm. And they come in... And his dead parents are on the left side, and the booty video's on the right side. And he's like, look at this. And they're like, oh, yeah, I thought that video, they couldn't show it anymore, whatever. And they're just...
Yeah, and they're just his parents' corpses are lying on the ground.
Yeah. And he eventually gets them to... He turns off the TV, and they look.
And then one of his friends starts trying to do CPR on his dad.
And then they start... Seth Green has a funny line at this point. He grabs a piece of cloth from his, I think it's his mother's hand, right? And says, a clue. It's just the way he says it is so Seth Green. It's very funny. And then they see the word ant. Well, I think Anton does. Sees the word ant, and I actually did some research on that. Okay. The word ant is written in blood, and there's a lot of speculation of what it means online. And after reading a lot of theories, I concluded that it's the beginning of the protagonist's name, which is Anton. There are a couple guesses within the movie. I think maybe it was the director and the writer trying to figure out what it meant to themselves. And what was the first thing he said? What was
my dear demon heads, if you could see me right now,
she is racking her brains to try to remember what he said as well. I know Seth Green says
he said they go back and forth, and so it's the friend from the Butterfly Effect, and he's like, so they were killed by ants.
Yeah, so then he says, don't be silly.
Do you have a bad ant? Do you have an evil ant?
Do you have a crazy ant or something like that? And I think that movies, by their very nature, are trying to answer a question that is plaguing a director. And maybe this is an example of him not understanding what this part meant in his own movie. And it's just a theory. It's not as crazy as my Satan Pizza theories. I think it's founded on something. I did look up how to spell the character Anton's name, and it does start A-T. So, just throwing that out there for you.
My brow could furrow any further than it is right now.
Just throwing that out there for you, demon heads.
To quote my friend Kaylin, my eyebrows have disappeared into my hairline.
Yes.
So, Anton at this point realizes that the fabric is from his shirt, but he has not said anything to either one of his friends. And so then, they kind of realize at this point, everybody... It kind of clicks that Anton is the killer. So then, Anton's right hand starts kind of going a little haywire as he's trying
It
to talk.
glows. It glows a little bit.
Yeah, and he's trying to talk to Mick, who is Seth Green's character.
Yes.
And he, like, slaps the phone out of his hand, and he's like, Mick, you know, like, let's not jump to conclusions or whatever. So then his right hand takes a soda out of the fridge and breaks it on the fridge door.
And then it cuts to the butterfly effect kid
Yeah.
smoking a bowl of the good green ganja that he has. Which is another important plot point, the fact that he actually did have ganj. And maybe none of this would happen, according to my Satan Pizza theory, if, he just gave him the good green ganj that he desired.
So Nub's in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And so it cuts to Seth Green with a bottle sticking out of his forehead and falling to the ground.
And he's dead.
And so he's dead. So then, Anton goes to Nub, and Nub sees Mick, and, he's trying not to freak out. And so Anton finally realizes, like, he can't control his hand. And so he and Nub wind up in the basement. And he's like, I don't know how much longer I can control it. So Nub...
You need to run. He runs up the stairs.
Almost gets away, and then he throws a saw blade and decapitates Nub as he finishes. He's like, everything's gonna be... And then cool as his head rolls down the stairs.
It rolls down the stairs, the head reaches the bottom of the stairs, and he says cool. Yep. Which is, I think, a cool scene. So, good word to describe that.
It was very well done. And so then he winds up burying everybody in the backyard.
Well, I don't know if that's what happened. Does he go to see Jessica Alba first?
Oh no!
I don't know.
We almost made it.
Yeah, I know. We were cruising along.
Well,
yeah. I think
he goes to see Jessica Alba
because
first.
of the cat.
Because
right?
he. This scene killed me. So there's this cat their cat who's like Boots or something.
Yeah.
It's like Boots, or we're going to call it Boots. And so he's like, Boots, no, get away. And the right hand takes the cat.
Yes.
And swings it around by its tail and throws it out the window. And you see it fly across the neighborhood.
So he goes out looking for his cat and then eventually ends up in Jessica Alba's yard and knocks on her door with his right hand. Yeah. And Jessica Alba comes outside. The conversation ensues. He says, and then she's like, son.
He starts like quoting her song lyrics to her and stuff. And I just love that she calls him baby cakes. That's what I just love.
At this part, I thought this was weird because Anton has blood all over his torso. And actually, I know, like, I've been going on a lot of really ridiculous tangents, but this is actually some real research that I did. He shows up and he's got blood all over him, and I was like, why isn't Molly, the character Molly, right?
That's already in my sweater, Demon Heads.
No, I'm asking you if that's her name, right?
Yes, Molly.
Jessica. Okay. Molly doesn't notice the blood, and what's funny about this scene is in the script, she was supposed to notice it, and he was supposed to make a joke offhandedly to say why it happened or something like it's ketchup or something, and then she was supposed to go, to kind of show that her character is also oblivious. But the scene ended up being improvised because Jessica Alba didn't notice the blood. And the director liked how she went about it and acting like she didn't notice it. So they decided to keep that. And they still were able to accomplish their goal of her being another oblivious character in this suburbia.
Which winds up they wind up upstairs. And so, he's like, they're making out or whatever. And his right hand keeps trying to, like, strangle her. So he winds up...
I do want to say, because they go up to her room, and he's still kind of timid and everything. And this is where the idle hand actually does something good for him. Because she's bent over, about to put on some music, and then his right hand runs across the room and grabs her ass. You can make an argument that he never ends up with that character if it wasn't for the idle hand. And I think that goes to show you. I mean, the whole thing is a metaphor, obviously. But I think it goes to show you it takes a little bit of good to get what you want, but it also takes a little bit of bad. Yeah. The whole point is you have to find that balance between your right hand and your left hand.
Yep. And so,
listeners, that is actually me clapping.
So, they end up making out. The right hand tries to strangle Jessica Alba, and so he winds up tying it to the bed. And she's like, "You're kinky," and that's the only line in this whole movie that made me cringe a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's just and so it cuts to, the hands like quivering and things like that
Yeah.
because it's just trying to kill Jessica Alba.
Great acting, by the way, by Devon Sawa. I mean, to be able to make it really genuinely seem like you can't control your hand, I imagine it's pretty hard. I don't think I could pull that off.
So then we cut to Vivica A. Fox, who is dressed as a nun.
Yes.
And she's walking through a prison. And her name is Debbie LaCure. And the police officer actually calls her sister Liquor, which made me chuckle. And so they go to the cell where this guy's there, and she looks at his hand, and his right hand is completely shriveled.
And deflated.
And
like
she's
Tom Brady's football.
And she's like, it's gone. And so she's walking through the parking lot, and she's like, shit. And she winds up taking off her habit and everything, and she has an Airstream.
Yeah.
And so she has like what looks like basically what, if you watch Buffy, it looks kind of like what like a watcher would have in their study, like books about, all kinds of demons, stuff like that. And so she's a map.
Yeah, she has a map, and she starts marking the locations where the hand has been.
And it all goes into a pentagram.
Yes, she starts drawing lines between the locations, and I don't know, it really just kind of makes a circle, and then she kind of draws the star. But we're not going to get into that part of it. But, it kind of reminds me of that scene from South Park. This is actually relevant, Bailey.
No, I know.
You know what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
He ends up drawing a penis. Yeah. So I think that, I don't know, you can kind of make a pattern out of anything if you really want to. I think that's another message that this movie's trying to teach us.
Have you ever seen the I think it was Attack of the Show, the video where they're really drunk, they're doing the Black Friday sales, and they highlight everything, and everything that they highlight turns into a penis drawing. It's like really stupid, but it's really funny.
Never seen that, but I liked Attack of the Show.
It's really funny. And and so anyway, so like we find out she's like, oh shit, and so she starts driving to where they are. So then we cut back to Anton.
And he's having the funeral for his parents and his friends, and just as he's about to say goodbye, Seth Green's character, Mick, starts talking to him. He's like, I think I was just unconscious. Then he pops out. He looks very zombified. Then Anton goes for the shovel, but then
Nub's body has
it. And we should say that that's important because Nubs is not attached to his body. And then he gets hit in the head by a shovel, which could have been accidental.
Yeah, and as he goes down, he sees Nub's head there.
Yeah.
And so then he wakes up in his bed.
He thinks it's all a dream.
Yes. Until he goes downstairs, and Nub and Mick, he looks at them, and they are clearly dead. Nub's head is in the seat beside Mick. Nub's body's in the kitchen. And he's throwing
some chips into Nub's mouth.
Puffs, yes.
Cheese puffs.
It's a little shout-out to earlier in the movie when he goes to buy weed. That's what they're doing, too.
Yeah.
And so, Seth Green apologizes. He's like, hey, I'm sorry.
You did kill me, but I need a little time to get over it. Now I'm fine.
Yeah, and so he's like, wait, what? So he so, they're talking to him or whatever, and they realize that his hand's possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well...
Randy knows about the devil.
Exactly. So cut to...
There's a funeral for some of the people that have been murdered.
Shuckleburger. Yeah, it's like a memorial. A vigil. There we go.
A vigil. That's perfect.
There we go. To some of
and they have like this local fast food joint.
Jungle Burger.
Jungle Burger. And you hear some of the generic jungle things you would add on a burger. I don't remember what any of them were.
I just remember the Rainforest Raspberry Shake. That's all I remember.
Yeah. And then Anton works his way into the drive-thru so he can take the orders, and he was really just going in there to talk to Randy.
Because he tries to talk to Randy, but he blocks Randy.
And then Randy drives off and then goes through the drive-thru, which is kind of convenient for his character. And then he goes in and then he's able to talk to him, and he's saying that because you listen to metal music, you must be in tune with what the devil wants. And he's like, oh, man, it's just like any composer. It's like Mozart. And then he forgets the name Beethoven. And then he says, you mean Beethoven? He's like, yeah, Beethoven. And
he's like, basically, but he tells him, this is important, he does tell him that his hand's possessed by the devil. He does tell him.
He says, idle hands are the devil's playground. And that is a proverb that God wrote. And this proverb was misinterpreted during the olden times. Back then, the word idle meant not right, which people took to mean the word left. And if you know anything about the Salem witch trials, one of the ways they were pursuing witches is if they were left-handed, they would assume they were a witch. And I can go on record saying that is just not true. I'm a lefty. Okay? I'm a lefty.
Zach prefers magically gifted.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Magically
I do.
Inept.
I'm adept, not inept.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Bailey.
So anyway, so
politically incorrect.
God, So, which, by the way, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 is the worker that says, "All right," when he's like break time. He's the one that he relieves. That's Tom DeLonge.
Really?
from
Oh, very
Blink-182.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Blink-182 had a couple of songs in that movie, right? Or just one, maybe?
it was a quintessential like 1990s movie soundtrack. So I'm sure that they were
yeah.
there somewhere. So then
I actually have something to say about Offspring later, because they're the band
I
Offspring.
love the Offspring.
Yes.
You know that the lead singer of the Offspring has like his PhD in like biochemistry or something.
I did
insane,
not know
right? Yeah,
that.
from Berkeley. He's like, yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. A lot of singers and musicians are extremely intelligent.
Oh yeah,
people.
it's like rocket science. Like it's biochemistry. It's like something insane. And so so he winds up going back home.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, excuse me. And so then
He's
so he
knitting.
ends up going back home and he's knitting.
Yes, to keep his hands busy with an
Exactly.
activity that isn't killing. We forgot to mention there were two cops earlier in the movie, and one of them looks like Steve Buscemi's illegitimate child.
They basically, you know, those two guys in high school who weren't cool at all.
And they became cops to
Yeah, to overcompensate.
yeah, those
Yeah,
dudes.
they're just dudes. So they give him a littering citation
Yeah,
early on.
and then he
movie.
litters with it.
He actually
yeah.
doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he rolls
have
it
a
up and
baggie.
that's where
he
it-
smokes it with the oregano
Yeah.
that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So you know we're back to where we're at.
Yeah, so
And
he
they
goes
show
through-
up and they're like they see the headless body and they see the bottle through their head, and he's thinking the cops are thinking, oh, we're gonna bust him.
Yeah,
We're gonna be able to be heroes.
but then. So then Nub's like, you should tell him what's going on. Then they shoot
Yeah.
Nub through the head.
Yes.
And Nub's like, okay, I changed my mind. You
Yeah.
should kill him. So then
Yeah.
his hand winds up killing. He electrocutes one.
Yeah, and stabs the other one through the ear hole
Yep.
with the knitting. Knitting. What is it?
Knitting needle.
Knitting needle.
And
That's tough to
so-
say. Knitting needle.
Knitting needle.
No.
And so they make a reference. Seth Green says, "Go Buffalo, go,"
Mm-hmm.
which is actually from a deleted scene. Apparently, in high school, those two cops were the head and the ass of their Buffalo mascot.
Ah.
And so, to jump ahead, that's one thing I would change about this movie. Is there's some deleted scenes that I feel like should have been left in there because there are some inside jokes left in the movie itself that would be explained from the deleted scenes.
That makes
That's my
sense.
only thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So anyway, so he kills the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's time for the Halloween.
Well, yeah.
Well,
No,
we
at
cut
this.
to the bowling alley.
No, not yet.
No, okay.
We cut to. Well, he's tired of killing people, so he decides to cut off his hand,
Yes, and so we have the bagel guillotine, which is my favorite
and he's
name
like,
for an appliance. And
yeah.
Nub's like, yeah, that
I
doesn't
can't even cut
sound
my
like
bagel, so it doesn't cut his hand off. And then there's one of the funniest parts of the movie. It's really silly to Seth Green going for the electric knife and going, "Hey, I'm Leatherface," and then it unplugs it. Still could have totally worked. They could have just moved him over there. But anyway, whatever. So then he brings out a butcher's knife. There's a whole like, I can't hit my hand thing because I don't control it.
So then they get Nub to like bite the hand
Yeah.
while he chops it off.
And then he has a nub of his own.
And so then they're like, so then Seth Green gets the iron. He's like, we need to stop the bleeding. And he's like, what, haven't you seen ER? And
Yeah.
Seth Green like is actually responsible in this moment. He's like, do you have any antiseptic or
Yeah.
anything?
He's kind of the responsible one throughout the movie.
Yeah, no, he really
Yeah.
is.
Saves the day a lot.
Oh yeah, and so Nub's like, no, but I do, and then I also have burritos, and so they go back to Nub's house, and so then Jessica Alba shows up to go to the dance
And we should say at this point he gets the hand and puts it in the microwave.
and nukes it, and
And
it's
nukes
like
it.
gross and like
Yeah.
it explodes and it's nasty, and so
That's why the burritos are important.
yes, so Jessica Alba shows up, and he's still in half of like the Jungle Burger outfit that he stole from the vigil of the two twins who were murdered that we saw earlier on when we talked about the newscast. And because at this point we kind of figured out as well, because when Nub and Mick show up right before Anton kills them, they knock over their onion rings and two ears fall out. They're both left ears, so it was the twins,
Yes.
and so that were murdered earlier. And so, so Jessica Alba shows up, and she's an angel, and she's wearing like a quintessential like little 90s slip dress angel costume, and she's like, what are you? And Anton's like, I'm a fast food worker who got off his own hand, and she goes to like touch his like nub, and he's like, no, don't. And so they wind up walking for a little bit, and then he's like, my parents are going to be home in a few minutes. If they see the mess I made making my costume, they're going to flip, so I'll meet you at the dance.
And she's like, you're not going to stand me up, are you? And he's like, I wouldn't dream of it, baby cakes or something.
Yeah.
Then he runs back and because he sees Nub and Mick going back to his house, and they go to cook the burritos. They open the microwave. The hand flies out the window.
And Seth Green delivers one of my favorite lines when he's like, when Mick's like, maybe we should clean it out first. And he's like, yeah, and then we can clean up the whole house. And it just made me laugh really hard.
Yeah.
And he like gives him this look, which is exactly like my wow, you're stupid face.
Mm-hmm. She's made that a couple times this episode.
God, that face lived in infamy when I was in college. Anyway, and so... You know, the hand flies out the window and starts crawling towards the dance. And so now Vivica A. Fox is at the bowling alley, meets up with Randy.
Randy's
and,
like, she's like, he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, do you really want to know? And he's like, yeah, tell me. And then she's like, I'm looking for...
She's like, I'm Debbie LaCure. She's like from she's from a long line of like, it's not Jesuit. That's it's like voodoo priestess.
Yeah,
priestess ladies basically.
Yeah, I forgot what because there's a joke later whenever
yeah.
she pulls out her watch that has that time. But
yeah, druid priestesses. There we go. And so she's like, they're sworn to like fight off this entity. See an enemy. This enemy who possesses the hands of like basically the laziest motherfucker around. And he's like, oh, this guy Anton told me. And
that he can't control his hands. And then he's like, where do you think he is? Oh, probably the dance.
So then
cut to the dance.
So then there are two kids making out in a car, and they're playing Detroit Rock City by Kiss. They're dressed up like Kiss. They have Kiss shirts on.
They're kissing.
And they're kissing.
And then they're, okay, let's be adults about this. There's some nudity here.
There's some boobs.
There's some boobies. And if you can't handle...
and some boobies.
Throughout our time in the podcast, we've seen breasts, but I don't know if we've seen anything this explicit before. So, just a recommendation. If you're not really in the mood for any, like, overly sexualized things in your movie, then go ahead and fast forward past this part. It's not that crucial to the movie.
Yeah, no. And so the hand winds up choking the girl.
And then killing the guy, making him explode.
Killing the guy, yeah. He, like, pushes his head in the glass until it explodes. It reminds me of an episode of The X-Files, Drive, if you've ever seen it. That's what it reminds me of. So then the hand gets out of the car. And she also tells Randy that the hand tries to kill as many things as possible. Like, it's just evil. Like, there's no really rhyme or reason to it. It's just evil.
Yeah.
And it's also going to take, at midnight, a soul back to hell.
Yes.
And so, so cut to the dance. They're at the dance. The Offspring is playing. And they play, what's really funny is they play the songs I Want to Be Sedated and Beheaded. And so, they're at the dance, and Nub's actually getting a little action from Jessica Alba's friend, dressed up like the devil, and they're like...
she's like, oh, I like your costume, etc., blah, blah, blah.
And they're like, who did your makeup? And Seth Green's like, well, Anton.
Yeah. And then he's like, but based on my design. So he takes credit for it. He starts making out with this girl. Yeah, Seth Green's like, don't you realize this is illegal? You're dead, etc., blah, blah, blah. Anyway... is Devon Sawa made it to the dance at this point? Because he gets on stage, right?
Gets there, and then the hand shows up and locks the door, unlocks the doors and locks the doors or whatever. And so he gets
traps
on
everybody
stage
in there.
Exactly. And I can't think of what his last. I know that the lead singer of the Offspring's first name is Dexter, and I can't think of what his last name is to save my life right now. And so they're like, he's like, there's a hand on the loose, blah blah blah. But he's like, no, you're not. About that time, the hand scalps. The lead singer of the Offspring. So everybody starts. There's mass chaos. Everybody's screaming. Nub's girl runs away, and it's really funny because Mick, he looks at Mick and he's like, I was going to get some. And Mick puts his hand tenderly on him, and he's like, probably not.
Yeah.
And so then they start...
the girl in the devil costume opens a vent. Her and Jessica Alba go through it.
Yes.
And then Seth Green and Butterfly Effect guy...
Nub, run to go...
They go after them to save them.
Kind of get some artillery,
So they go... they're going through these air vents, and... we should also say that there's this really weird scene with the principal who's
calling a sex fellow. At first, you think he's like calling for fraudulent charges.
Yeah. And
then it turns out it's a sex.
So he starts touching himself. And then he's like, "Oh, I feel like you're here with me. It's really hot. Oh, I really do feel like I can actually feel you." And then he looks down, the hand's there, and kills him.
Yep.
Kind of a useless scene.
And so then Devon Sawa meets up with Vivica A. Fox's character, Debbie, and Randy. And so she starts trying to kill Devon. He's like, look, I cut the hand off.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, that was a really bad idea.
Yeah.
And so...
She's like, he's like, oh, I got to get back to my girlfriend. Randy's like, you have a girlfriend? He's like, yeah. And then she's like, that's the one that they're going to take to hell at midnight.
Because and he's the like, hand wrote on the fence in blood, she's mine.
Yeah. So... again, that's kind of a weird plot point to me. But, what...
I think she's like the pure soul or whatever.
Yeah, fair enough. I think they did it the first night, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, this is where she's like, we have until midnight. And he's like, we have plenty of time. It's like 9 o'clock. She's like, no, in Druid time, it's 6 minutes to midnight.
And he's like, Druid time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. So then they're like racing, trying to find Jessica Alba.
Yes.
So they wind up.
Jessica Alba and her friend are in the air vent. They get to this giant fan. She puts a shoe in the fan. It stops the fan from spinning. She kicks out and she gets the string that's for the devil's tail that her friend was wearing for a costume, ties it up. She climbs down. Her friend's too afraid to climb down. The string gets pulled up. And
the friend gets completely eviscerated in the
by
fan.
the fan, yes.
And so Jessica Alba's just, covered in blood. And so
friend smoothie.
And so...
Satan Smoothies. Brought to you by Sutherland Connections. Sutherland. It's a connection.
So... Our sponsorship. We can
Sutherland.
go a little bit later.
Yes.
So we wind up the hands in the art department, and so it gets a bunch of puppets, and it gets
a little silly here.
Looking puppet,
yeah,
so that it can take the form of something. And so Devon Sawa sees it and tackles the thing, but it gets away in this puppet. And
then we find Jessica Alba tied to the hood of a car that's raising up into a pentagram. And then the idle hand is pushing this lever up, and it's making the car rise up into this
puppet.
Yeah, and then they're trying to stop it. Devon saw. Well, let's use this. Anton, Mick, and Nubs go over there, and they're trying to stop the lever. And then they find this bong,
this huge bong made out of car parts
that Nubs said that he made. There's question whether or not he made it.
The ashtray, I would believe, because they pick up an ashtray in the art department. Nubs I made that. He's like, the ashtray, I would almost believe. There's no way.
So they light up some of their good green ganja in that thing. They smoke it, and then Anton takes a big rip of it himself, blows it up the puppet's costume. And the puppet turns around and has a different face on. It looks really high.
It's mellow, and then it's eyes roll back, and it just falls off. And Jessica Alba stops as her nose touches the top.
So, and at this point,
Vivica A. Fox runs in with Randy.
Yeah.
And so she throws this dagger, and so the hand gets stuck through Seth Green's heart.
Yeah.
And there's just a poof.
And then he says, "That's it? That's it? No explosions or anything? I mean, I'm glad everyone's all right." And I feel like that, to me, is kind of a summation of the movie. It builds up so well that it gets to that point, and it's just like...
Well, that's actually a joke, because this is not the original ending. The original ending, the climax of the movie was in the pool. Yeah. And the pool, it got really dark. If you watch the deleted ending, it's hands, a la VHS, are coming out of the wall and trap Vivica A. Fox and Randy, and it's these disembodied, gross, bloody demon hands. Yeah. And then the pool is filled with hellfire. Yeah. And then Anton, Jessica Alba's tied to the diving board. Yeah. And so Anton goes to save her, winds up diving in and breaking his neck, and then we cut to the hospital scene. Yeah. But I mean, it's really
that'd have been a way better ending.
They just said that they felt like it didn't go with the tonality of the movie because it suddenly gets really serious.
Well, it's kind of a serious situation. Someone's being dragged to hell, possibly. So maybe that's not the worst thing to change.
I mean, it's comical, how she's tied to the car. But they said that it just didn't. In the director, he's like.
What do you think? Do you think which ending do you like better? The one that made it to the theatrical version or the deleted one?
The deleted one is better, produced. Yeah. But I feel like I agree with the director. They would have to change the tone, and it would be less comical and just darker.
I don't think that's a terrible thing, because, I mean, I look back at this movie now, and let's go ahead and sum it up after I say this, but a lot of the jokes don't really hold up as much as you'd like them to, and, some of that comedy is a little bit dated now, and a little bit, but, it's still fun. It's still a fun premise and everything. And this is one of the few movies that I think would be a good remake. I think if we redid it today, 16 years later, I think it might be a better movie.
Oh, yeah. So anyway...
which is good for the recasting out demon segment.
Oh, yeah. To wrap it up, so Debbie drags Randy off for the ritualistic sex after. Car falls on Anton.
Line. Yeah, car falls on Anton.
And then cut to white light, and it cuts to a hospital bed, and he's in in traction. Yeah. And so Jessica Alba's like, you blew off heaven to come back and hang out with me?
And he's like, you taking care of me is way better than heaven, I'll tell you that much.
Yes. And so then we find out Mick and Nub are now his guardian angels.
And then they leave to go get him some snacks. Lights turn off the lights, and it says, I'm under the bed. He screams. They're like, should I tell him that I wrote that? Nah. Fuck it. Let's go walk through a nurse. Some of those nurses are male, and that's how the movie ends.
Yes. And so that's how Idle Hands ends. And so, yeah. That's out of hands.
Satan Pizza Theory. Ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
What do you think it is?
I think that you think that he either was in a coma or died after snorting that oregano and nutmeg. I think that something happened. I think that you either think he died or he like dreamt the whole thing.
I think he dreamt the whole thing. I think that he died. I do genuinely. That is absolutely right. I think that Anton died as a result of maybe there's like some kind of mixture that we're not aware of. Maybe if you mix water and soap and nutmeg and oregano after you smoke it, inhale the fumes of it, that it's a deadly concoction. Maybe he doesn't die. Maybe he's in a coma. But I think that the movie before wasn't as absurd. Maybe the beginning scene was. Maybe that's the only argument you can make to say that my Satan Pizza Theory, which is otherwise, impeccable.
What if this is actually all... Here's a Satan Pizza for you. What if this is actually one of Jessica Alba's songs that she wrote? And we're seeing, like, in story form. It's like one giant music video for a song she wrote.
That's a thought. That is a thought.
There you go. Okay, so that ends the Satan Pizza Corner.
Yay!
Yeah, it's a theory.
Not the best pizza. It's like our party pizza.
It's like a Totino's.
A Totino's party pizza.
Which is still pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, who knew that putting like cheese and tomato sauce on cardboard that you burnt would actually taste pretty good?
Oh my god. So, yeah.
Recasting Out Demons, brought to you by Sutherland Connections.
Do you want to do that first, or what would you change first?
Oh yeah, what would I change about this movie? I would change the tone. I would make it a little more serious. I would make it a little darker because as much as I love absurd comedy, and Bailey, you know about me that I think that that's the greatest thing on earth is Airplane and Wet Hot American Summers of the World and Blazing Saddles. Anything Mel Brooks ever did is amazing.
World Part 1. Shout out to you.
So these are things that I love. But in terms of what this movie is about, the plot line is actually kind of interesting whenever you have a hand that embodies someone and starts terrorizing the town. I feel like you can still make it a dark comedy, but to make it outright... it loses its zing as a satire.
More like the tone is of Slither is what you're thinking, like more.
I'm thinking more of the tone of like something like the host or the guest rather, the guest. Anything like that Wingard's doing, like like You're Next, something like that. Yeah. That's why I think if it's remade today, it would be better because we have better stomachs for satire. We have a better palate for it, rather.
Okay. Yeah.
What would you change?
I just, like I said, I would add back the deleted scenes because there are some really good, like, for example, Nub and Mick come running in football gear at the end, like after, like to help out Anton when he's in the auto shop, and so I would add back those deleted scenes because there's some really funny deleted scenes. So I would add those back, or like the Go-Go Buffalo. I think that's funny because the story, like, he's like, yeah, I used to be the head and the ass of the buffalo. It's actually really funny. I'm not doing it justice. But, yeah, I would change that. I would add back the deleted scenes.
Okay.
So, recasting Out Demons.
Okay, you go first on this one because I went first with the trick or tweet.
Okay, so the parents, I want Chris Parnell and Kristen Wiig
at the
beginning.
Absolutely great.
For Anton, Miles Teller.
Okay.
Molly, Emily Browning, who, for those of you who don't know, Sucker Punch, the Uninvited... She was in The Uninvited.
What's her name?
She's been in Emily Browning. She was Violet in a series of unfortunate events.
Oh, I actually do know who that is. Sweet.
Yeah, so I would say Emily Browning for Molly.
Okay.
For Mick, Dave Franco.
No way.
For Debbie LaCure. Okay, so here's my thing. I was torn between Beyonce and Mia Jovovich because I think that they would both be. Because I mean, Beyonce was a badass and obsessed. She like kicked Ali Larter's
She's great.
ass.
Gold member.
God. For Nub.
Foxy Cleopatra.
God. For Nub, I would say Blake Anderson from Workaholics.
Okay, yeah.
And then for Randy, Martin Starr.
Oh, okay. For sure.
Yeah, so that's me.
Okay. I got Josh Hutcherson as Anton. I think Josh Hutcherson.
I thought about him.
Yeah. I think that, I don't know. I think that he's funnier, more understated funny than a lot of people think he is. Dave Franco is Nub.
Stop.
I'm serious.
God.
Christopher Mintz-Plasse is Mick.
Okay, yeah.
Chloe Grace Moretz is Molly.
Oh, yeah. I love her.
Kerry Washington is Debbie LaCure.
Yeah.
And 80 Miles is Randy. 80 Miles is from Wet Hot American Summer. Yeah. Just the lines that he delivers, I think he would deliver it in a much more deadpan and like more
funny like
way.
Anti-comedy way.
Yeah. So I think that's another missing component of this comedy. If you're going to be absurd, you have to kind of have a vacuum of comedy with the anti-comedy that Airplane and all the movies I named before are able to include, to have the balance, the left hand and the right hand of comedy.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can juggle a movie with only one hand, and I think you need both of them. And that's why I'll give it my rating of 4.8. Now, I know that sounds like I'm bashing this movie, but really I'm not. I like the movie. It's very enjoyable. I think that it's got a nostalgic value to it. My only problem is, and if this wasn't the case, if I had reviewed this movie in 1999, probably would have been like a 6.5 or something like that. But whenever a movie isn't timeless and it doesn't hold up and the humor falls short of what it was in the late 90s, I don't know. It falls short.
Yeah, I mean, I would give it a 5.5.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, nostalgic. It's like movies like Urban Legend, Final Destination, all of those movies around this time kind of like have a special place in my heart. Because, I mean, we rented them all the time, like, I don't know how many times. This isn't like to hit that demographic of nostalgia. I don't know how many times I rented Final Destination, Urban Legend for Blockbuster. Like, I don't know how many times we rented it growing up.
Yeah.
So, it just...
Remember renting movies?
Yeah, I mean, I did the other day at Vulcan Video.
Good.
Yeah.
I
if
should
you don't
do
have
that
a Vulcan
more.
Video card, go get one. Really support them. They're awesome.
They don't even sponsor us. We
It's
just...
like, it's only it's $2.75 a rental. You get it for 5 full days. Like, it's not due until midnight. It's by midnight the 5th day. So, I mean, go.
Not bad.
Go support Vulcan Video. For Bone Plugs and Harmony, thank you again to Lauren Mims for the use of our cover art, for all of her super cool stuff. Go to LaurenCeciliaMims.com. Thank you to Jackson King for the intro music.
Yeah, and outro
Appreciate
music.
you, Jackson. Oh, yeah, we do have outro by Jackson, too. Yeah, thanks,
Jackson, I also want to take a moment to say I appreciate the rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody me and you were able to do whenever we closed together last at work. It was a very nice moment.
Good. I'm proud of you guys. Zach, what do you have going on?
I've talked about my show too many times, so I just want to plug the podcast that me and my brother are going to be working on. It's called Truly. It's a current events podcast with a little twist. Has a history lesson in there for you as well. As far as I know, I talked to him about it today. We came with some segment ideas. Progress is coming along, and we're actually going to try to sit down and possibly record the first episode. If not, just trying to see where the voice is going to be on Sunday after the Titans game. That depends on how the Titans do, honestly. If they win, we'll probably be in the mood. If they lose, might be a dark episode. Might be a short episode. Might feature a real fight between me and Cameron. And I don't know, maybe this plugging doesn't really matter. Maybe the podcast will die on Sunday. But hopefully not. I think there's some good bones to it. And I'd love to throw some meat on those bones and toss it out into the real world as one of my my podcast children.
Gosh. So, yeah, that's all we have. For this time, just to let you guys know, in October, get excited for Halloween week. We are actually going to release an episode a day during Halloween week, so get excited for that.
Yes.
We're going to get 7 full days casting out demons.
Yes.
We also should have the Thing episode up soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
I mean, it's edited. I just have to do the score for it.
Cool.
I keep being uninspired with what I'm doing, and
Okay.
I need to pressure myself creatively in terms of doing the score for it.
Yeah, our demon heads won.
Yes.
We have to help. We have to give the masses what they want.
I know. It's tough
The people want the thing.
It's tough to edit and do the music, and so I'll get it done.
Yeah.
I always do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of took a week off. My girlfriend got back from Oklahoma, so I spent a little extra time with her. So haven't been really spending that many nights in my own apartment. So
Yeah.
anyway, Bailey, do you have a Twitter handle?
At Bailey McLeod on Twitter. I have a blog, nobodyputsbaileyinthecorner.wordpress.com. I write for Hello Giggles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually sending in some new stuff tonight, so hopefully there'll be some new pieces up for you guys.
You can find
and
her on
some
the
new
third
blog
page.
posts. I'm on the third page of contributors. And I might have another podcast or a vlog coming up soon, because I don't have, enough side projects, so I'll keep you guys posted on that.
Bailey has so many irons in the fire. She has so many pots and pans burning on her metaphorical oven, but she keeps it going. She keeps the fire hot. She keeps the creative juices bubbling out like a volcano on the surface of the sun.
And remember...
wait,
and you have a Twitter handle.
I do have a Twitter handle. I just want to take a little side note and say that I wanted to have this moment recorded because I feel like it's going to be a big moment for us, and I don't know, in terms of our friendship and something that I know that you've been looking forward to happening in my life. I sat down last night and was perusing Netflix, and we came across a movie that holds a lot of high esteem in a lot of people's minds, Bailey. And this movie, a lot of people claim it's one of the best movies ever made, and I had never seen it. It was a big blind spot. And my girlfriend forced me to watch it.
Oh, please let it be what I think you're about to say.
And I watched Pulp Fiction for the first time last night.
I'm so proud of you.
And I have to say, one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I had always stuck by the theory that it's probably overrated. Not overrated. Great movie. A 9.9 out of 10. I know that we don't review those types of movies on here. Blew me away from beginning to end. Absolutely outstanding movie. I'm sorry, Quentin Tarantino, for waiting so long to watch one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I don't bring that up completely unrelated because it kind of does tie into my Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is you hit the @ symbol, you chop off your hand, you get some adrenaline from Uma Thurman, you stab your hand with the adrenaline, and let that bad boy type away in the keyboard, and that is my Twitter handle of the week.
All right. Hopefully, I think we have a guest next week. We're going to see. If not, Zach and I will definitely be back here.
I think we'll have a guest.
I think we will. Exciting. It's a first timer.
Yes,
so
it is.
Get ready for that.
I can't wait to be on.
God, who is that mystery guest?
Who's that?
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah. And remember, ghosts have feelings too.
The sequel.
Casting Out Demons is sponsored by Sutherland Connections Incorporated. Sutherland, they let you breathe. You shouldn't be breathing. Casting Out Demons is created by Bailey McLeod Perkins, starring Bailey McLeod Perkins and Zach T. Busby. Original music, the music you hear right now, by Jackson King. Cover art provided by Lauren Mims. The original score was provided by Zach T. Busby, and Casting Out Demons is always edited by Zach T. Busby. Clap, clap, clap. I only know of 2 times of clap, trapping me in a trance. Any chance I'm forgetting one, like how I forgot to dance? Hands are not real. Hands are not real. Hands are not real.